Alright guys, it's time for another DeckTech, and this time we are going with some Japanese stuff. We're going with Tatsunari, Toad Rider. So when this got spoiled I was super excited because it's a super fun card. It's a new take on Enchantress, and the goal with this deck is to do something original and something interesting, but also do something that you don't typically see. So when you think Celestia or when you think Enchantress, you basically think Celestia. So I decided to build something else, something different. So it's a Enchantress deck, but the kicker here is Mutate, and that's also a mechanic I really liked. Rule Nightmare and everything. It's a super fun type of creature, like you build mutating, changing creature types and creating stacks of insane creatures. And I really like the art of Ikoria as well, so it was a pretty easy choice, and now I think I found a home for Mutate. And this is some of it's a German, but Jargle. I had to have the frog guy, the frog monster in the deck as well. He's mostly flavor. It's a low power deck, so I have room for some flavor. Alright, first we have ramp. You have your typical ramp, Soul Ring of course. Font of Fertility. It's not a great card, but it's an enchantment, so it creates a toad when it enters. That's nice. Tribe-Elder, seen it. And your typical 3 mana ramp spells, 3 visits, Nature's Lore, and Rampant Growth. Next up we have Sanctum Weaver. Fantastic card in this deck. Really produces a ton of mana, and with some other cards, some other synergies, it can go pretty wild. And I also included as many as I could of the Japanese alt art mythical archives. And this of course is Cultivate. This is not all the ramp. There are some other cards that does ramp, but I included them in a different category because they are pretty bad at ramping, but good or better at doing other stuff. So pretty low ramp package. 8 cards, usually run 10, but it's green, so there are other ways to increase your mana production. Next up, we have interaction, the almost most important thing in any deck to stop people from running you over. We start with great interaction in Nature's Claim, destroying something for 1 instant speed, exactly what you want. We have Seal Removal, not as great, but it can protect my own stuff as well as interacting with other players' creatures, on top of creating a toad when it enters. Infernal Grasp, creature removal for 2. So, as good as it gets. This is again Japanese Mystical Archive, and this one is Negate, counterspell. Next up we have, this is Doomblade, destroy a non-black creature. Again, there are better options, but Japanese Mythical Archives are so cool. This one is Eliminate, destroy target a creature CMC 3 or less, so destroy something small or a token or something. Counter Squall, counterspell, or negate-ish. This one is Putrefy, destroy creature or artifact. This is Croson Grip, destroy split second, so you can't respond to it, destroying artifact or enchantment. Seal of Doom, destroying creatures and creates a toad when it enters. Agent of Erebos, So every time an enchantment enters the battlefield, I can exile a graveyard. Fantastic card. Doomwake Giant. It's a big boy, expensive, for 5 mana. It removes all 1/1 tokens when it enters, and scales with the more enchantments that enter the battlefield. So that's 12. I have more interaction in the deck as well, but they are again under different categories. So the one I'm kind of lacking, I have 2 for enchantments, I have 2 counter spells, 1, 2, 3 artifact removals as well. So it's not a great interaction package, but it does what it has to do and has answers for graveyards, it has answers, or of course Bukabog, but creatures, artifacts, and these two also create a token when they enter, so they have a different added synergy as well with the deck. So this is the pure interaction package. Yeah, it does what it does. It's pretty cheap, low to the ground, mostly instant speed except for the seals, but I sacrifice instant speed for more enchantments to create more toads and see some other cards. So in the draw package next we will see why enchantments are so important in this deck. Next up we have card draw. First up we have Wizard class. So basically 4 mana sorcery speed, draw 2, and no maximum hand size is not that important. But the main point of this is getting a token when it enters an enchantment, and leveling up to level 2 if I have no other cards to play and access mana. So I really like that card. The last level, level 3, it's rare I go there. But again, if I have no cards in hand and I have no action or no juice or no gas left, of course I can go to level 3 and start pumping my creatures. Then we have Village Rites. Sacrifice a creature, draw 2. Can sacrifice a token if I have more enchantment than I have mutate. It's a great card. Evolutionary Leap, same deal. If I have more tokens than I have mutate, I can sacrifice a token to find a mutate card instead. I think this is the best card in this deck. Season of Growth. You scry, so basically every enchantment that creates a token is added scry 1, and whenever I mutate or I play Village Rites, that's an extra card. So that one will draw me a ton of cards on top of creating a token when it enters. But that is on cost. I get the token, so I will not get to scry when I play it, but after it enters there will be scrying. This is Sign in Blood. Really love the art of that one. Draw 2 for 2, lose 2 life. This is, I think, Compulsive Research. Draw 3, discard 2 unless you discard a land card. Sadly, there are way better options. This one is Sorcery Speed, there are instant speed for the same mana. But again, Mystical Archive are pretty cool. Stresan Champion. Draws cards and grows on enchantments on ETB. So even if I have no way of creating token enchantments, but that one would be a real powerhouse. You can also mutate on top of him, giving him trample or flying. And next is Enchantress Presence. Auto include in all enchantments deck. Super good card, creates a token, draws me cards. Greed. That's also draw. That one is on a cutting block. There are better options. I've not found any super nice card I would like to replace it with, but yeah, that's on its way out. Memory Deluge. I love that card. Look at top 4, pick 2, flashback for 7, look at top 7, pick 2. So it digs deep and finds answers. And since this is a creature deck, Bident of Thassa, if a creature connects, you get to draw on top of creating a token when it enters. Eidolon of Blossom, also an auto-include in all enchantment deck, creates a token and draws cards. And lastly, we have Harmonize, 4 mana sorcery, draw 2. So this is the pure draw package. There are other cards that draws me cards as well, but this is the main focus on the card draw. It's 13 cards. I think there's 2 or 3 more that has card advantage on it. But this is the main draw engine, and 4 of them or 5 of them are permanents that draws me more than 1 card. So, and Evolutionary Leap is not really card draw, but it's it finds what I need. So I included this as a card draw in the card draw package. Next up, we have sort of recursion, sort of protection that will protect myself against board wipes and rebuild after board wipes. One of my favorite cards, Kaya's Ghost Form. Creates a token when it enters and protects my commander or the most important mutate creature. Phyrexian Reclamation is picking the mutate creatures, the dice back from the graveyard. Eel Umbra, Flash, creates a token when it enters and protects my commander from spot removal or a sweeper. This one is Regrowth. Return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Sorcery speed for 2. Again, not a super auto-include, but again, Mystical Archive, Japanese, they are so nice. And last up is Gloom Shrieker. Enchantment, so it creates a token. Menace isn't really a big deal. Sadly, when this dies, it gets exiled, so I can't really recur that one. But yeah, picks up permanent cards, so mutate creatures, card draw engines and stuff. Overall a great card in this deck because of the enchantment subtype. Next up we have what you've all been waiting for. Mutate. Sea Dasher Octopus. Draws a card on connection. Flash, so I can do it instant speed. Isn't really important. The main point of this card is it costs 2 to mutate. It lowers the power of a toad from 3 to 2 because the real function of this deck is to mutate on top of the toad. So it's no longer a Kami, it's just a whatever mutate creature it is with the Kami ability, draining your opponent. So the goal of the deck is to have multiple Kamis or Kami abilities, making each enchantment drain your opponents for more than 1. And with some other cards, the last part of the next part I think will be how to benefit from multiple enchantment ETBs or costs. Next we have Parcel Beast. Again, 2 mana from mutate is the most important part. It's not super valuable. The ability, of course, you can get some card advantage, but the main ability is the mutate ability on all of these cards. Migratory Greathorn. It's a bad Kodama's Reach or Cultivate. Again, mutate for 3, gets a land. Insatiable Hemophage. Again, 3 mana mutate, drains your opponents. Again, main ability is the mutate, secondary Death Touch is also nice. Gem Razor, Awesome art, awesome creature, 4/4 reach trample, 3 mana to mutate, also destroys an artifact or enchantment, so one of the better mutate creatures. Keywind Whisperer, menace, 4/4, increases the power by 1. Each opponent discards a card. Not super important, but you know, it's a good upside. Glowstone Recluse. Enters, puts 2 counters on that creature, so it becomes a 4/5 reach. Nice to have answers for flying, but again, main ability is the mutate. Grimtail Heron gives flying, adds a toughness and draws a card on ETB, so replaces itself. Pouncing Shore Shark, flash, and has a bounce effect on it. Not my permanents, but opponent's creatures. Can get you out of some situations. Boneyard Lurker, 4 mana, and has Recursion on it. Disrupting Gnar, 5 mana to mutate, creates a token. Yeah, it's fine. It's not. Ideally, I would like to have the mutate cost at 4, but you know, I can't be picky because mutate is not a super common ability. So 1 set only. And here's a juicy boy. Brokos, Apex Forever. You can always cast from graveyard, so if he dies, he comes back, and that's 6/6 trample, so it doubles power toughness. And Otrimi. Sadly, no full art on that guy, but again, trample 6/6. Also on connection, he will recur mutate creatures. And that is the mutate package. 13 cards. Bad luck, I know, but these are the best. Trumpeting Gnar maybe is on the cutting block. I'm not super sure. I kind of want to keep the mutate levels pretty high, but he is by far the one I'm looking to cut because he is the worst of all the mutators, I think. Next up, we have kind of the value package of the deck, stuff that exponentially increases the value. And first we have a card called Mana Bloom. What that one does is you pay X and a green, enters with counters, you can remove 1 counter each turn, and when it has no counters on your upkeep, you can return to your hand. So basically it's a 1 mana enchantment that you get to play every turn. So that's a super strong card. This deck really does a lot of work. Also drains, you have several Kamis that has mutate on it, and you get to drain for 3 or 4 life each turn. On top of like Stressland Champion or Enchantress Presence or Eidolon or Blossom, you get to draw an extra card for 1 mana. It's overall a fantastic card in this deck. Next we have Whipsilk, also a absolutely amazing card in this deck. Paying 2 mana, draining, drawing, doing all the stuff, also giving reach, so protection from air. And we have of course Shimmering Wings, gives actual flying, and again can be bounced repeatable times. Ranger class, creates a token on ETB, gets 2 with the commander, can be leveled up to level 3. This one is reasonable to level up to level 3 because you can start playing Mutate from top of your library. Getting a counter on target attacking creature is not super important, but it's nice. Arasta of the Endless Web, 4 mana, 3/5 reach, again protection from flying. Small flying creatures will not get through. Also creating more blockers with reach, jump blockers for each instant and sorcery opponents play, on top of creating a token when it enters because it's an enchantment creature. Whip of Erebos. Again, returning stuff from graveyard, recurring them. Of course, you will exile them at the end of the turn, but giving lifelink as well is... It's just an overall fantastic enchantment on top of actually giving all my creatures lifelink. So, yeah, pretty much an auto-include. Warlock class. Level 1 doesn't do much, it's a 1 mana enchantment creating a Kami. Level 2 can draw me some cards or get to see top 3, taking one of them. And level 3 is absolutely backbreaking. It will kill people for sure. And Sanguine Bond for that extra drain. So having those two or those two out will break the game. On top of adding an extra damage from each Kami on Whip Silk and Shimmering Wings. So those are the value package, I would say, that increase the value of the deck. Ranger class is also maybe on the shopping block. I'm not sure what I would replace it with, but that one is on the lower end in this deck. But it's 2 mana, creates blockers and stuff, so buys me time. I like the card. And next up is the juicy part, the explosive, I win the game sort of thing. First we have Ivy, Gleeful Spell Thief. Whenever I mutate, I also mutate on her, so getting double value. I've not really resolved this one yet, so it's a new include in this deck. And I think maybe she will be cut because it's a rule nightmare waiting to happen. Keeping track of all the mutates and the stack on top of her will be, it will be a nightmare. Next up we have Rites of Replication. Because the mutate creatures are not legendary, I can mutate on top of a Kami and then get like instant 5 extra, making each enchantment drain for 6, buying me time and basically ending the game. If I get to untap with it, or if I can protect it, or it would be hard to get through with damage and stuff as well. Next up we have Sakashima's Will. It's a cheap card. The thought process behind that one is, again, they're not legendary, so I'll get one of my opponent's creatures. Doesn't really matter. The goal is the second ability, that all my creatures become a token of or copy of a mutated Kami. Again, making every creature I have in play, even like the tokens, like the spiders from Arasta and stuff, making everything into a mutated Kami, playing 1 enchantment, draining for 6 or 7 or 8, on top of increasing power and toughness, maybe giving trample, maybe giving flying, maybe giving, something. And so that one will end games. And the last card is a really, really spicy card. It's Vesuvian Diplomancy. Just backbreaking. It's again a bit of a rule nightmare because you need to remember the stack. So if you mutate on a mutate creature, it has all the mutates it had previously. So the second time you mutate, or third time or fourth time you mutate, you will also mutate on top of that creature as well. So I'm not sure if that one really is worth all the mental trouble of keeping track of all the stacks of mutate creatures and copy, clone, mutate stuff, but for sure it's a fantastic card in this deck and does some real work. And of course, if this one stays, it's game over pretty quickly. So some pretty spicy cards. And last up, we have the lands. Command Tower, Oyuka Bog, Exorted Orchard, the Snow Duels, Vineglimmer Snarl, Marsh, Catacombs, Sunken Hollow, Tainted Island, Tainted Woods, or Tainted Isle, Yavimaya Coast, Llanowar Wastes. So these are the non-basic. Because I'm playing green, I've not really invested a ton in the non-basics. 3 wizards and stuff could fetch these guys, the German ice duels or snow duels. And I'm running Kamigawa basics, so 5 islands. And I'm running 7 forests. And I'm running 7 swamps, I think. No, I'm running 8 swamps. So that is the deck. I really like this deck. Again, I said in the beginning that I really wanted to make something out of Mutate, and I couldn't really find a way to make something out of them. But I think I broke it. I think I found a way. So how does it play? It plays fine. It's again low power. We're talking low power here for sure. There are of course ways to interact and kind of stop this deck, but generally this one does real good work at low powers because it again creates blockers with the enchantment that enters, making it hard to get through with some like cheap damage or like cheap tokens or whatever. Commander comes down turn 3, creates a token turn 4, and has a lot of consistent card draws, has a lot of recursion, or not a lot, yeah, it has a lot of recursion. I choose Gloomstreaker over Eternal Witness because of the enchantment subtype, so making it even have more value, even though I think still think that Eternal Witness would be better. Has interaction, has some counter spells, has a lot of what I would like flavorful cards. Like I really love the Japanese Strixhaven Mythical Archive. I like the English as well, but the Japanese are just a league of its own, like full art, just making it super clean. So yeah, that's the deck, and currently cheapest version in euros on Card Market is about 70 euros. So I would consider this a budget build. I would not consider it like super budget, because my super budget builds are usually around 50 euros or sub 50. That's where I would really like to have my decks, because then again I'm not playing with my wallet, I'm playing basically with what anyone could afford that's into Magic, and there's no like super expensive cards in this deck. Sure, you don't need to foil it out, and you don't need to play Mythical Archives and stuff, and you can even replace the Mythical Archives with better interaction, making the deck better at the cost of less flavor. You don't need full art mutate creatures, but again, they are not super expensive. They're not the bulk of the cost of this deck. The bulk of the cost is basically in this deck, it's basically the basic lands. They are actually super expensive. I think they're about €1 each, or even above €1 each. And since you're playing green, you could replace some of the like Font of Fertility could be Kodama's Reach, or you could replace Sanctum Weaver. I think is about €2 or €3 maybe. You don't need like the OG version of Whip Silk and stuff. You could make it a lot cheaper. But most of the cards are super cheap. And this deck does work. I really like this deck. It's a bit slow, and you invest a lot by playing one enchantment to get a token, and then on top of it playing a mutate. So it slows down the deck a lot, but this is what I want the deck to do, and it does it pretty well. That's about it. Take care, guys. Make sure to have fun, and make sure to add flavor to your decks. Max power is sure, you can play max power, and that's fine. But most people don't spend like €1,000 or like €500 on a deck. Most people, I think, has some version of precons. So playing against precons, you kind of need a deck with a lower power level. And I think this one is on par, maybe a bit above your typical precon. But due to its speed and the draining effect, giving each opponent the possibility of finding answer of stopping you, but it's pretty resilient, and it has answers for pretty much everything. So yeah, I like where the power level of this deck where it's at. Of course, there's a lot of adjustments that could be made, like strategic planning doesn't really fit the deck. I should really play Thrill of Discovery? Yeah, I should play both the thrills that is draw 3, discard 1 unless you discard a land, and the other one that you discard as an enchantment. But again, like, I like the Mystical Archive, so I'm gonna try to get all of them in. I could go with Demonic Tutor, but I don't really like the card. I don't really like tutors that much unless it's lands. So I'm not going to play that. I'm not going to play extra turns. Blue Sun Zenith could be an include. I'd like that. Duress, of course, and the Inquisition of Kozilek are also like cards that I could be playing, but I won't. Though I don't think they have a lot of potential in EDH. I could play Dark Ritual. That is a card I was thinking about, and maybe I will add it. I'm not super sure. Counterspell, yes, I could go with a regular Japanese Strixhaven Mystical Archive Counterspell, but I think that one is about 10-15 euros, so I'm not really super keen on that one. I have 2 counterspells, maybe replacing. I'm not sure what I would replace, but maybe the Ranger class could be a counterspell. Potentially, but overall I'm pretty happy where this deck is currently, and I will make some small adjustments here and there and see what new cards come, like the new products, what kind of enchantments they have, but generally this is where I want the deck to be. Take care, guys.